the expectations of the customer and all of this kind of stuff. In my opinion, these claims are probably more about changing systems in their national organization and allowing beer to go from 12 to 21 than it is about actual changes in taste and those things. But that's just my commentary. There's also House Bill 270, which is going through the House right now. They're in committee. It's an overdose death bill, which basically would make drug dealers subject to higher penalties if the person that they supplied the drugs to had an overdose and died while they took whatever drug they used. Basically, it expands the definition of an involuntary manslaughter to include drug overdose deaths. It sounds, somewhat interesting on the surface. One of the concerns raised, however, is could a physician be held under the same law if a patient overdoses? If a physician gives an individual some kind of medication for pain or whatever that ails them, could that physician, if the patient decides to, for whatever reason, either mistake their medication or do something else, could a physician be held under those same guidelines as a drug dealer to and then be charged with involuntary manslaughter if the patient overdoses? So that was something that was raised up this past week, and that bill is probably going to go through some amendments or anything before folks actually pay more attention to it. The next bill is House Bill 325, which is a drug addiction treatment bill for pregnant women. Basically, if you're a pregnant woman and you are also addicted to drugs, I think they specifically list out opiates. However, it does include other drugs. What usually happens is if Children's Services steps in and sees a woman who is pregnant and has some kind of addiction problem, that the woman has to basically give up the child upon birth if that mother is still addicted. This would preclude Children's Services from filing that mandatory complaint with the child welfare system, but there would have to be some stipulations. The pregnant woman would not lose the child if she sought treatment before the 20th week of pregnancy, or if she's in treatment currently and she attends regular prenatal appointments with a physician. So this is something that would kind of radically change the child welfare system and how we treat pregnant women who are addicted. Perhaps give them more courage to say, I need help with my addiction. And it's these types of programs, I think, that are quite needed in drug reform, so that we aren't going to the place where we're going to legalize everything and everything, those types of things. Good drug reform, drug policy reform is, I think, a good thing as long as it benefits folks in seeking treatment and seeking help, and also encourages folks to deal with things rather than lock someone up or take things away. I know that we have two bills in the House right now. One in the House, one in the Senate, about driver license suspensions. If you're caught under the influence of driving under the influence of drugs, they take a mandatory punishment, but something that is left up to the discretion of the prosecuting attorney or the judge or whoever that you see. So there are some things that are trying to be changed as far as drug policy, and the reasons for those the driver license suspensions is for the fact that if you have some kind of substance in your system, you do seek treatment. You also don't lose your job if you can't get to your job because you don't have a driver's license. I agree that there should be some thought put into that. We don't want people who are drug driving, but if these folks have a job and they lose their job, that just encourages more going into that kind of dark realm where they may seek out more of the drugs that they're taking. There's also Senate Bill 54, which was passed by the Senate and will be heard by the House. Actually, the first hearing for it is today. It would require child-resistant closures for all liquid nicotine products. From what I understand, there was a death from liquid nicotine of a child that got into this and basically drank it instead of used it in the vaporizer or the e-cigarettes or however you use those things. So they're trying to get child-resistant caps and closures for these liquid products. And that bill was highly debated in the Senate. It finally was amended with a number of amendments, and is now headed to the House. So we'll see how that goes. House Bill 230 is another bill that is, I know that Phil Atkins from the Union County ADAM Board Director, actually he testified on this bill beforehand, and he basically testified in favor of it. What this would do is change this from an OCPS 1, prevention-wise. There's some other rules that would be changed from with the chemical dependency counselor pieces, the number of hours required and all of those types of things. But this would change as far as prevention. An OCPS 1 would become a prevention specialist instead of an OCPS 1. The OCPS 2 would be changed from that to a prevention consultant. And there would also be a change from alcohol and drug prevention services in the law to just general prevention services, so that there would be a more behavioral health focus instead of just drug and alcohol prevention. So you have some of your mental health issues, behavioral health, maybe even obesity, you have a number of things, suicide prevention. So all of those things could actually be kind of lumped together instead of just focusing on alcohol and drug prevention. So we're very looking at that and seeing how things go. Well, we were supposed to have a special guest today. But she may have trouble signing in. So basically, we will have a kind of an update on marijuana that I will go into here. There's lots of things that are going on around the state that are, pretty exciting. Right now, we're frankly, I think things are going very well. Some of the things that we're noticing is that polls from the other side are not being released. If they were winning this thing, or if they were doing big things, winning by quite a margin, then you would hear their polls that 59% supported and things like that. But we're not hearing that. I know we have heard one quote from Ian to basically say that he's 95%. Ian James is the director of Responsible Ohio, and he has said that he's 95% that they will win this. However, he doesn't have anything, any kind of evidence to back this type of stuff up. Some of the bigger things that are going on, we know that there are a lot of individuals and communities who are really rallying around the Vote No on 3 cause. And you know, some of the things that I know have happened. I know that Wood County has done a tremendous amount of work in getting the word out through town halls and through some of the different public events that they have had. Last night, Deb Cheney from Toledo, Sylvania, held a big town hall, which was nicely attended. I know that there are a couple of folks who have issued have formed PACs, political action committees. I know that Tuscarawas County has done that. Some individuals have done that as well. So we have a you know, a lot of stuff that's going on. Educational opportunities. I know that there are some folks in Carroll County who have come up with postcards and that they're handing out on, do you know the difference, basically? Do you know the difference between marijuana candies and marijuana, you know, marijuana edibles and all of those types of things. And then there's also websites. You know, there's a great Facebook page that is, I think it's Keep Off the Grass, that one of our coalitions has done. And they have just, you know, that's really, really a big piece that I think is just outstanding. With those things, I mean, there's so many things going on, and I know that there's a lot of questions out there. You know, we're sticking with the talking points, which would seem to be resonating with people. I talked with someone, you know, with a group last week sometime, and you know, they actually wanted to legalize marijuana, but they hate the monopoly piece, and they hate that issue of being put in Ohio's Constitution. So we really focused on that. You know, the edibles are another big issue that that seem to get folks they're educating themselves about those things and not liking them at all. It's just, you know, it's just so focused on the kind of marketing to children type of thing, and people are saying that, my gosh, do we really need, you know, medicinal marijuana, cotton candy, and all of those other types of things. And then finally, just the number, the volume of stores, the 1,159 stores that we would have in the state, more than McDonald's and Starbucks combined, all of those things. That seems to really be, you know, could it be put into, you know, my neighborhood, and those types of things. So it is something that that we really are happy with the results that we're getting with those 3 talking points. You know, and then when you can add on some of the information that we get from the Rocky Mountain HIDA report, you know, the teen use that has gone up, you know, it really does make an impact on individuals. In lieu of our guest, which is she here? Okay. We're having some technical difficulty, of course, and Derek very nicely put up the talking points that we seem to be working in communities. I was wondering if we, until if she's able to check on, if we had any questions or anything like that that folks would have. As far as whether it be something from the State House, something from marijuana. So if you had any questions, please type those in your question bar, and we would be able, you know, I'll be able to answer those. Just on also while you're getting your questions in, just wanted to let everyone know that there has been a big merger at the international level, where Budweiser and Miller Brewing have actually combined forces, and they will be one company to form a super company of beer manufacturers. They would actually own about 1/3 of all of the beer in the world. So that is being looked at by regulatory officials and those types of things. So that's something that I just wanted to bring to your attention, and we can update those more into the future. This just happened, I guess, yesterday. So I didn't know if there were any questions or anything.
Tony, we do have one question so far, and that is from Matthew, and his question is, would they be able to sell only at pot shops, or would Walmarts and grocery stores sell marijuana products as well?
It would be only sold in pot shops. The 1,159 stores would be the only licensed retail outlets that are able to go buy marijuana. Now, when you talk about that, those are only recreational stores that would be that are listed in the document. There's also a provision for medicinal stores, but we don't know how many the numbers are. There's no reference to how many medical stores, how that would work. Would they be able to vote? Would you have to vote those in, or would they just be allowed to move into your neighborhood without consent of the community? There's just absolutely no language on that, and that was basically going to be left up to that Cannabis Control Commission. So it is basically they would only be for sale at those pot shops.
And this question is from Allison. Do you have any updated poll numbers for marijuana?
We do not have. I don't have any updated poll numbers. The last poll I heard was actually from a legalization organization where they were polling in the low 40s. But that was from one of the other groups. It was not from Responsible Ohio, but one of the other legalization groups who did their own polling to see how this was working. Again, legalization advocates are not for this bill for the most part, simply for the fact that it does create that monopoly and gives only 10 investors the ability to grow and to grow marijuana and to profit from it. I know that the Ohio Association of CPAs last month joined the 95 groups that are in opposition to Issue 3 and, for one reason. They found a loophole also that would preclude the growers. So you're going to have these 10 rich investors. What they've done in the language, they've actually precluded themselves from state income tax. So if you're growing all this marijuana, and they claim it's going to be a $2 billion industry in the state, they would not have to pay state income tax on the money that they're making from that. It says only local taxes, but doesn't include any state taxes. So that is another issue that we're really concerned about, and that's the reason that the Ohio Association of CPAs have joined our cause. Any other questions?
And another question from Matthew. I have one just in today that said 54% would vote for Issue 2. Not sure that source, but it came in from my local judge who is avidly against marijuana.
Excellent. So Issue 2, okay, Issue 2, this is, I get this question a lot. Issue 2 is the amendment that would outlaw monopolies being put into Ohio's Constitution. Basically, as my son put it last night, he was debating this. He said that we don't want to turn the Ohio Constitution into a classified pages for rich people. So what this does is eliminates the ability for folks to put a monopoly, any kind of monopoly, not just marijuana. In fact, marijuana is not even mentioned in Issue 2. But any monopoly that folks want to do, we learned our lesson with the casinos, basically, that that is a monopoly. Quite frankly, it's just I think 2 organizations that own all of the casinos in the state of Ohio. And the same people who are doing Responsible Ohio are doing, they did the casino amendment. So they like to put monopolies in to protect their investors. So this is something that issue 2 is about. That would preclude that, preclude those monopolies from being put into the Ohio Constitution. So, you know, when I know that I will be voting. I'm not telling anyone else how to vote. I know I'll be voting yes on 3 and no on 2, which is kind of what their big signs and slogans and things like that on our site say. So, any other questions or anything?
Those are all the questions that we have. Okay.
It's been a rough day.
What Tony meant to say was he is going to vote yes on 2 and no on 3.
You have to understand basically how this is going. If there are confusing, so it's yes on 2, no on 3. If there are confusing issues, what you've found with election cycles is that if there's confusion between two bills or 2 initiatives that kind of look alike, people for the most part tend to vote no because of the confusion on both of them, just because they don't understand. That's some of the impetus around that, is that, well, heck, I don't know, monopolies. I don't like either, so I'll just vote no on both. I'm hopeful that if 2 passes and 3 goes down in flames, but until 3 weeks from today, we don't know. We don't know. It's 3 weeks from today is the election.
We don't have any other questions or comments at this time. Of course, if you do have questions or comments, feel free to enter that information into the question section of your GoToWebinar navigation panel. Tony, any idea as to next steps should issue 3 pass or not pass?
If issue 3 passes, I think we're immediately going to have to do some immediate education about edibles, especially with parents, with young people. I mean, that is going to have to be something that is that we should actually probably be getting sheets on and some educational resources. Simply, edibles are a different form. People think, oh, marijuana, it's not that bad, but these edibles. There are 2 issues. One, the high potency of these things. They will have 30 days. Responsible Iowa will have 30 days to basically get their act up and running. I don't know how they're going to grow marijuana in 30 days. They probably have it grown somewhere else, I'm guessing. But so they have, so the edibles would then be, they're much higher potency, which means that they are much more powerful. This is where the folks who have eaten these, this is where you're getting some of your psychotic episodes. I was out in Colorado and I met with a coroner, and she talked about one of the cases she saw where this 17-year-old boy ate an edible and he didn't feel anything, so he ate another one. And basically had, his friend said he started having some hallucinations and some other issues, that there was something going on in his body. There was a being. So he took a knife out and stabbed himself 22 times trying to dig this being out of his body. He was having a pretty bad hallucination. He ended up dying from his wounds. It's those types of things, the potency, and also the way that this is processed in your body. It has to go through a digestive system. So you're not going to get that high within half an hour. It's usually 45 minutes to an hour before you start feeling the effects of an edible. Which means that people, especially young people, are like, I don't feel anything, so they end up eating more than what they should, and this is where the problems start. And then also the issue that next year we're going to have to probably have a pretty big awareness campaign if issue 3 passes. I'm hopeful that it doesn't, but if it does, we're going to have a huge public awareness campaign on Halloween candy. I know we're coming up to Halloween now, so can you tell the difference between the marijuana candies and a regular gummy bear? So just that big awareness piece that we will have to have out there, in addition to all of the other jobs that we have now. So.
And then just the last question of if issue 3 does not pass come 2016, do you expect something else to be on the ballot?
If issue 3 does not, I mean, that is something that, I know that we have the Ohioans to End Prohibition has said they are collecting signatures now. They're not as well funded. They are not as well organized. I know the guy who runs it, Sri, he actually texts me a lot to tell him how much he hates Responsible Ohio. But I don't know. Now, does this mean that, with the presidential election, could they get some outside funding? Could the Marijuana Policy Project or Normal step up and actually give some money, the Drug Policy Alliance? Absolutely. So, we could be in for all this again, but it wouldn't be to the point of $40 million, which is what we're up against this year. And then also, again, you have to collect signatures and all of that. So it could come back. I wouldn't see it come back in Responsible Ohio form, especially if issue 2 passes. Then that's going to, eliminate monopolies, and that will be something that, they won't be able to have the same business model as they do now. So I do see it coming back. Do I see it in 16? I don't know. And quite frankly, the national organizations, Marijuana Policy Project, and Normal have focused so much on 16 that if they don't win big in 16, they know that the stats are starting to come out in Colorado. They know that the issue with edibles are really starting to surface. They don't see a real, if they lose in 16, they don't see the same momentum that they have before. So if we can beat it back here in Ohio in 15, and the nation can beat it back in 16, we've really turned a corner and can actually, I think, go to a much better place of not allowing these things not allowing other states to join in the legalization fight.
And Tony, can you mention a second about if there's been any progress on being able to test for marijuana, particularly those who are suspected of driving under the influence?
You can test for marijuana as far as you can see how many metabolites and things are in your system. If you're talking about a roadside test or a test you can do at work like a breathalyzer, that's still somewhere around 3 to 5 years away from actually having that type of test. I talked to a doctor last night in Toledo, and he said that the kinetics, which I didn't even understand what that word meant, of your body, he doesn't know how any test would be able to fly in a court of law because there are so many variables with marijuana. But the University of Akron and also the University of Washington both have prototypes of kind of breathalyzers, for lack of a better term, these roadside tests for marijuana. But again, they're 3 to 5 years away, and after that, you may have them, but how do they hold up in court? How are they actually useful in trying to either get a conviction for drunk driving or an actual displacement of a worker who may be impaired at work? So it's those types of things that then you have to go through the court system to test on reliability.
Thank you, Tony. And we don't have any other questions at this time. Did want to remind you about the marijuana resources that are available on our website at drugfreeactionalliance.org/marijuana. Tony will be traveling and doing a lot of town halls and events throughout the next few weeks as we lead up to the election. But if you do have calls, questions, or need additional information, feel free to contact us here at 614-540-9985, extension 17 for Tony, or tcoder at drugfreeactionalliance.org. We thank you so much for joining us today and hope you will join us for the next advocacy webinar where, if things work in Tony's favor, issue 3 would be defeated and issue 2 would be successful. Thank you again, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.